Oh, I know that. I thought she was.
Looks pretty good. She's behind Pat. Ronnie Williams came in. Burrows, his wife,
Ronnie's at the bar, you know where Ronnie is.
You got him spotted? Yeah. Want me to switch it on?
New tape.
I can erase it. Jimmy's a good old boy. Where's Ronnie? I lost him. I can't find him.
God bless America, the Bureau, the NRT, and Jimmy Bivens.
Not necessarily in that order. Ronnie got away. He took one drink. Oh, I see him. He's in the black. There he is, right there.
Shine it on Gus.
See if I can. Where's he at? Oh, it's right there. Yeah, lady. Ronnie still got his darn lip in that though. Let's get Willie. Hope the floodlight blast. The batteries, the hecker went out when they started talking, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we got just about everybody, I think.
If I could get old Ronnie to turn around, we would.
Well, you got a good side shot of Ronnie.
Faded out.
much off first plate.
retiring after nearly 25 years of law enforcement service to the government and the citizenry. Jimmy came on with ATF in November of 1962 in Richmond, Virginia. He transferred in May of 1969 to a supervisory position in the Washington, D.C. area. I didn't really know Jimmy at the time, but at that time I was also moving around, and I heard a great deal about him and about things he could do and had done. In 1973, he was reassigned to the Atlanta Regional Office, and in 1975 to San Francisco region, and in 1976 to Bureau Headquarters, where he occupied a number of positions. Two of them were SAC positions, Special Agent in Charge positions, and one was a Chief's position. In 1980, January of 1980, he came to Birmingham and became my supervisor. I was a lot smarter than he was, but he did nonetheless become my supervisor. Seriously, not knowing Jimmy very well prior to that time, it was a pleasant surprise for me to find someone who, even today, I think, to be probably the most able, lucid thinker that I know today. Not only is he a very clear thinker, able to sift through the insignificant or the extraneous, he was always able to come up with alternatives to resolve the issue, no matter how complex or how broad in scope they were. So I learned a lot from him, and I sincerely say those things. He's an outstanding executive, an outstanding manager, but more importantly, I think he's my friend. I don't want to take too much time because there are a number of people here who will say some things, some good, some bad, but all in terms of honoring the man. Nothing will be heinous in any way. I have a poem, and I'm not a poet, and I'm not a poet reader, or poem reader. And I'm not too sure what this is, but it has been composed by one of the agents who does this for people he has a lot of respect for. Sometimes he does it for those he doesn't respect at all. I'm not sure what case this is. There are 7 pages of this. I'm going to do the best I can, so bear with me if you would. I'm not even too sure I can see it very well. As a U.S. Air Force clerk typist began Jimmy's government odyssey. Don't you laugh, there weren't enough whacks, not all from flat planes you see. It was there, though, was laid the foundation which made his career a breeze. There he learned, I suppose, the well-written prose and the language of bureaucratese. In Washington, he's worked in government service. In San Francisco, town by the bay. Through Leeds, Virginia, I don't know how this rhymes, by the way, in Metro Atlanta and Birmingham, where Mrs. B says we'll stay. Now, there's some prose in there someplace, but I'm not sure where. Jimmy's a very private person. Does he have something to hide? He was hard to do, but I'll share with you what I learned about his personal side. At home, he has a peculiar habit. Each Sunday, he reenacts the same scene. Throughout the 4 seasons, for whatever the reasons, like clockwork, it's just his routine. At eventide, he's drawn to his closet. By the way, we got this, some of this from Phyllis, where he gathers up in his arms the leathery bundles he lovingly fondles, what peace he finds in their charms. Then quickly he moves to his favorite chair. It's there he starts losing his blues. As with gentle caresses, as you've already guessed, he shines up each one of his shoes. His subordinates know that Jimmy values the ideals which make America great. Freedom to vote, democracy to hope, and the right of the SAC to mandate. You've got to know Jimmy to understand. And there'll be some examples of that. For example, there are, throughout the Birmingham districts, ceramic figures from a football game. Well, often I've pondered, I've frequently wondered where this idea came, from where this idea came. I was told that 3 of them discussed it. He asked, shall we give it a try? two voted nay. Then they heard him say, "I vote yes," and that breaks the tie. Everybody's moved to California. Jimmy preceded his fine family from Atlanta, GA to the Frisco Bay via the southern route in his MG. He packed his most treasured possessions into the auto he so loved, a sport coat or two, all of his shoes, and last but not least, his golf club. The trip was memorable, if not pleasant, because of a faulty choke. So he had to unpack and then to put back everything each time the car broke. And apparently that was frequent. At a gas stop somewhere in Texas, the MGB just wouldn't start. The native mechanic had asked to look at it. "Whoa, where'd you get this golf cart?" Jimmy takes pride in his wardrobe, coordinated from head to toes. But Thompson the tailor, I'm not too sure it's that, says it's more than a favor to alter these second-hand clothes. I've mentioned in passing his fancy for golf, his game, his life. Now the caddies all say that on an average day, this is true, he's generally outdriven by his wife. I played him too, I know this. No. I found it not easy to find these things that Jimmy just heard, but of agents toil or outlaws foil, I could scarce find any word. There was one incident in Washington involving one Kenyon Ballou, of whom was written that he was smitten by jackbooted fascists like you. That's you people out there. The tale was told to me thusly. The home was finally found. The agents with stealth, protecting their health, came up to the door with no sound. They called out their presence and purpose, and shooting began, but none shrank. But a shot misdirected, struck and dissected the Ballou's very large fish tank. It was further said that the woman present, and I can vouch for this too, I wasn't there. It was further said that the woman present, naked and largely endowed, was watched very carefully by our hero Jimmy, all of the agents in the crowd. Days later, while looking at the photos with desks tucked under their feet, much to their chagrin, the agents noted then the lady had not all of her teeth. Then there was the destruction of firearms left over from the Roberts case. Jimmy, of course, cut them with a torch, then said, "We'll dump them, I know a good place." At night they drove in his direction. He said, "Right there, this place I know. I've walked that bridge, I've crossed this bridge, tossed them into the deep river below." Next day, the same route they traveled, stopped at the bridge to gaze at the flood. To Jimmy's surprise, when men met their eyes, were gun parts sprouting from the mud. I've asked Jimmy of his retirement plans. I have none, was his reply. But the thing I know, when I do go, I won't much at the office stop by. When I told this to his office staff, they looked at me sort of strange. When I asked why, here was the reply, "There won't be much of a change." We have a number of people that would like to make a verbal presentation. Some will have gifts or going-away presents, I guess. The first one I would call upon is a longtime friend, an ex-ATF agent who is currently with the Environmental Protection Agency, Dave Riggs. Is he here? Here.
I guess somebody else started talking about some slightly risque things. I want to add in the Kenyon Ballou situation up in Washington, D.C. many years ago. My partner at the time, Eddie Cybertime, were supposed to go on that raid, and we looked around and there were a number of people there, so we said, "Jimmy, wouldn't it be okay if we Seibert is retired from ATF now, and he's down in Miami, Florida. But he related a story to me that Jimmy had been talking about throughout his career, and it involved an incident in the woods, as so many things happened back in those days. And Jimmy used to tell about this funny agent that used to work with him, that they were out stalking this still in the woods one day down in Virginia, and the fellow had to go to the bathroom, which often happens out there. So he sat down on this log, and his gun went on the wrong side of the log. So he ended up defecating on his own gun. Figuring out a way to clean that became a major problem. And then Eddie Seibert told me that one night he and Jimmy were out wasting away in a Washington, D.C. bar, and Jimmy finally admitted that that very stupid agent was himself. Things happen when you're younger that never happen when you're a big guy like yourself. So all I want to say is Eddie Seibert was going to send some sort of memento about that, but we figured it'd be too obscene to show. So from Eddie and myself, Jim, I wish to thank you the very best and wish you well for shooting a good shoot today.
The RAC in Birmingham, Richard Maldonado, has something to offer, I think.
Well, I really didn't want to pass up this opportunity. I've worked for Mr. Bivens now for approximately 7 years, 4 of which I was assigned personally to his office, as his operations officer. During that time, I was able to reap the benefits of his training and expertise and leadership. And when I think back over the years, all the things that really stuck in my mind, there's just a few that I'd like to probably give an example of. I can remember very vividly the time that when we first went to reporting on what we called our district assessment reports. And Mr. Bivens, of course, realizing that I was new and learning in my new position, allowed me to write and rewrite that report 6 wonderful times before he reassigned it to Mr. Durham to complete. And I really appreciate that opportunity. There was one other incident without going into too much. One time at a what we call a RAC meeting, or Resident Agent in Charge meeting, Mr. Bivens came up with the idea of implementing a policy where the special agents would be able to record their reports and then just turn in their cassettes to the typist and have those reports typed. And this was open for discussion at the meeting, and for some reason I kind of missed the point. And he was very patient and stopped that meeting and cleared the issue up to the point where I became very apparent what the word mandate meant. Right after the break, I vigorously pursued the opportunity to be the pilot posted duty, and actually it was assigned to my post of duty, and I really appreciate that. The last thing I wanted to mention, and then I'll get out of the way, is, and on a very more serious point, I think that one of the real things that Mr. Bivens did during his time here and was very important, is that he felt very strongly about recognizing good work and the accomplishments of his people. And people in general, as far as the Bureau was concerned. And he went and he established what we kind of call the Birmingham District Office newsletter, where he sat and wrote little accomplishments on a sheet of paper and passed it around to the various posts of duty so that everyone knew what each agent had accomplished over a period of time. From that, he went to the thing that was mentioned in the poem was he designed himself and established, and at his own trouble, a sort of a little trophy, doll trophy that was given out to each and every agent for good work that was done. And, although it seems insignificant, I think from someone who's been out in the field and observed what this thing has done, it really meant a lot to the people, although sometimes there were some jokes made about it and things like that. And I think it was a real motivating thing that was accomplished. And then I said, you know, of all the people, there were several of us who had received these trophies, and I thought about it and I said, you know, probably the only one who hasn't received the Birmingham Special Agent in Charge Award was in fact the Special Agent in Charge. So I decided to take this opportunity. Everything I've had the opportunity to work in this building. It has been a real pleasure. And under his direction, it has really made me very proud to be part of the Birmingham District Office.
There we go. Paul, it's a very small world. As you know, I've been my supervisor for 2 years, and I'm smarter than he is, too.
You didn't say that, huh?
Bless your heart, he tries. Along the same lines as Jimmy, we kind of refer to as the Attaboy Award. Jimmy also came up with a lifetime award for the support people, the non-special agents, which within our district are predominantly ladies, which, as everybody knows, nobody can run anything without the women nagging at you to do it right or whatever it is women do. But at any rate, we came up with a similar type of an award for the ladies within the last about year and a half. And along those same lines, we have taken the opportunity to have one of the trophies made up for his wonderful wife, Phyllis. If I can remember where I put it before I started drinking. We consider our wives and our children and everything else part of our ATF family. The wives particularly in Phyllis's case. For 24 years, every morning she's gotten Jimmy up. Sure, the divorce behind his ears. She has selected what clothes for him to wear, what shoes to put on. She has tied his tie and tied his shoes for him and got him off to work on time. She won't have to do that when you're retired. Phyllis, we appreciate it. In spite of himself, he's had a wonderful career, and we know that under no circumstances could he have been near as successful without your backing. Thank you very much.
pass. Anything, Jay?
You will keep it close. Tell you about that later.
When Phyllis isn't here, I think. Cecil Moses from the Bureau of the FBI.
That is better.
I'm going to quote my good friend Mel Bailey and say what he said at my last party. I feel like Mark Anthony when he went into Cleopatra's bedroom. I didn't really come here to talk. And I really didn't. You know, I have a reputation for being long-winded, I'm told. And also dry. And Jimmy knows that because we've been in meetings together. And I'm not only speaking for myself here, though, in a few words that I will say. As a friend, I came into Alabama in 1981, not long after Jimmy. And I'm also speaking for all of us in the Federal Executive Association, which I happen to have a great honor of being involved in this year with Jimmy's help. I speak for those gentlemen as well as the FBI family in Alabama and pay a tribute to. And I could roast you too, but I won't. Because the stories I have, I just don't think we should repeat them in front of Phyllis and your daughter and others. So we'll leave those for another time, another day. I would like to present to you. You would have probably put this in your office. That's why we didn't give it to you while you were still on the rolls. But you know, there's that little thing with the FBI and ATF and Secret Service, and it's good, healthy rivalry. It took me nearly 5 years to get our agents to come up with a decent informant, as reported by the press. And the minute they finally get one that's productive, Jimmy and his crew come right in and arrest him. We really work together. I mean, we needed an informant, and they needed a conviction. At least maybe after January the 2nd, you hopefully will put this in your den. And it's the FBI seal, the laser seal. And I knew I couldn't give this to Jimmy before, but it has it to Jimmy L. Bivens, SAC, ATF, Birmingham, Alabama, with appreciation, your FBI friends, and our many. And I say that they're sincere.
Gary Gaines, Chief of Homework, PD. Gary, you good? You want to tell us about the hourglass, or? Seriously.
Thank you, Paul. James, not being in the federal bureaucracy, I don't have to be nice. And in fact, this is the first time I've known you were married. After all those business meetings we've been to together, I've been through AAA now, so I'm better. I'm glad to hear the story tonight about the gun, because it answers a lot of questions that we've had in local law enforcement for years. It's been known that Jim never carries a gun, and I had been led to believe that it was because he couldn't qualify. And so after some careful consideration, and some of my guys at work suggested to me that being in ATF and dealing with all these illegal weapons, that might be the answer for this. And so we found something, James, that we think that you can probably qualify with. It's a water gun. Now, for all those guys who have told me Jim is a little squirt, it will shoot 30 feet, Jim. Battery's not included. And one last thing that I've got to give you, One of my Auburn students at work did this for us. We have an honorary degree for Jim Bivens from the Frank Camper School of Mercenary You'll notice he didn't spell mercenary, that's why I gave It's not loaded, Jim, and you've got to pay for the transfer fee.
Frank Donaldson, U.S. Attorney, Lower District of Alabama.
Thank you, Paul. You may have seen this guy sitting over there writing some notes a while ago, because when Paul got up to start the formal part of the program, he said, we come tonight to honor Jimmy. And I changed my notes because I thought this was a roast. Paul also said,
I'm sorry, I lied.
Jimmy is a clear, sound thinker. I got news for him. He's rapidly reaching the age where that fades fast. And I'm one who can tell you from experience, buddy. One thing about this, well, you know, he thinks he's retiring young, but the truth of the matter is he's already a good bit older than he believes he is. I'm reminded of a fellow who was sitting on the park bench crying, and a man came out from the office with his lunch to eat his lunch in the park, and he saw the old fellow crying. He went up to him and said, hey, what's the matter? And the old man said, well, it's a long story. And the guy with his lunch said, well, I'm going to eat lunch, tell me about it. And the man crying said, well, I'm 85 years old, and I'm married to a 25-year-old lady, and she's just a beautiful thing, and she looks out for me real well. She fixes me 3 meals a day, takes care of all my needs. I take a lot of medicine, and she gives me my medicine right on time, and never complains about anything. The guy says, what, you're crying? What's the matter? He said, I forget where I live. News, sometimes I have to ask your way home. It'll happen before you know it. Jimmy, here are my notes, and they're brief, but they're good. This man, and I say this, meaning every word of what I'm about to say in the next 2 or 3 sentences, he has set a high standard of service. All of us in law enforcement know that. We know him and know the type of work he does and the type of man he is. He also has made, and all of us will agree in this room, I think, the quality of life better for the people in those areas where he has worked. He's a model for other officers. There are 3 particular qualities I want to mention real quickly. Namely, he has ability, integrity, and courage. And I can add to that, as a man also with a tough hide, but with a good sense of humor. As a matter of fact, speaking of good sense of humor, it helps him a great deal on the golf course. Richard Thomas said that Jimmy is a perfectionist. Now, that carries through on the golf course in one sense. If he doesn't get the lie he likes, he simply drops another ball. As a matter of fact, he's got this tactic. If you're about a stroke ahead, you know, he can carry on the best conversation you ever saw right in the middle of your backswing. And he has a club, one club in his bag that nobody else has. It's called, now, Phyllis, you know about this, it's called a foot wedge. When the ball gets behind the tree, that club comes out. Also, I don't want to discourage him, but as he gets older, his eyesight's going to give him a little trouble. It wasn't long ago I could read this without my glasses. and I could also see where my golf ball went without my glasses. I'm reminded of a fellow not long ago who was a good golfer, and he could hit a long ball, but he had his eyes were bothering him, and he couldn't see where it went. So a friend said, well, I've got a friend who doesn't play golf, but he's got good eyes. That old man can really see. So the fellow said, fine, bring him on. And the good golfer teed off and hit a good ball. He said to his new friend, did you see it? And the guy said, yeah, I saw it. He said, where did it go? He said, I don't know, I forget. One thing about this law, nobody in law enforcement believes in cooperation or communication, coordination, collaboration more so than Jimmy Bivens. And for that, Jimmy, I personally am grateful and personally thank you for such. And I can say that sometimes, I remember one time, I remember a fellow saying about a state DA, he's a prosecutor's prosecutor. Well, let me say this about this fellow. He's a law officer's officer, and for which all of us, I think, would, beyond a doubt, nod and assent to that. And lastly, though we are here honoring Jimmy, all of you know that Jimmy has said to the question, what are you going to do when you retire? Nothing. Just simply nothing. Well, it might be not inappropriate if under those circumstances, Mrs. Bivens, we gave you some honor tonight.
Gus Gary, Special Agent from Mississippi.
This way's good.
You're still on the roll, right?
Doesn't all leave until January 2nd.
This will be real short, Mr. Bivens. I just found out he's still on a roll and still my boss. So, be real short. I lived in Mississippi for several years now. I grew up in Alabama. When we grew up, I always heard the phrase, thank God for Mississippi. I now know why. We have the highest per capita consumption of cheese. It's free. We have a lot of commodities in Mississippi. We give them away. The Jackson Post of Duty met and wanted to give Mr. Bivens something to remember us by. The vote was 4-1. We should give him my travel voucher back. It brought him a lot of pleasure. It caused me to pucker a lot. I got phone calls. Hey, what the hell? I had 2 appointments with people very prominent in the state of Mississippi. One of them being a gentleman who has served in the United States Senate for more years than I am old. I got as far as his house in DeKalb, and up to Henry, his trusted aide. And Henry went in and asked Mr. John if he would write a letter to Mr. Bivens' retirement. He wanted to know how old he was. And he said, 50. He says, that's too damn young for anybody to quit any goddamn job. And I can't tell you the rest of what he said, because I had to get in my car and leave. I'm not going to break it all apart, but yesterday, through an appointment I had made previously, I went to visit with the Chief Executive Officer of the state of Mississippi. Although I didn't know, I had to attend the ladies' travel guide luncheon with him, and to get what I was sent to pick up.
24 years of service to your country is an impressive record, and your contribution to our law enforcement community will long be remembered. The citizens of Alabama and Mississippi will miss you, but please know that we wish you the best as you begin what we hope is a long and enjoyable retirement. Feel free to come back to Mississippi and visit with us in your leisure time. Again, thank you for all you have done to make our state and region a better and safer place to live. With best wishes, respectfully, Bill Elaine, Governor of the state of Mississippi. And he framed that and presented it to me. Had to get on my knees to get that. And present that to you. Thank you, sir, from the governor. He appreciates it.
Jim Blanchard.
By way of background, I would just tell you that I met Jimmy about 18 years ago. He was my first supervisor when I came with ATF. And he was my supervisor for a number of years, and then we kind of parted for a few. And then he went to headquarters, and lo and behold, I went back to headquarters, and we got a chance to have another round of that. And I certainly enjoyed working for Jimmy all those years and admired all the things that he imparted upon me. But more than that, I appreciate the opportunity to say in front of all of his friends how much I value his friendship and his family. I won't say too much because it'll probably be kind of easy to get emotional. I want to thank Mr. McGuire for giving me the opportunity to present Jimmy with a very valued award for members of the Treasury Department. It's the Albert Gallatin Award, and this award is presented to employees who, make a long story short, don't get in trouble during their career. This is the Albert Gallatin Award. Albert Gallatin, as you may know, was the Secretary of Treasury in the early 1800s, appointed by President Jefferson. This award is presented to any Treasury employee who reaches the retirement age without getting any sort of trouble, as I mentioned before. It is a very valued award, and it's my pleasure to present it to you.
Mr. Philip McGuire, our Deputy Director.
Thank you, Paul. Always makes me feel so good when I follow Paul. I feel so tall. Hey, I'm not retired. It is truly a pleasure to be here, and a special thanks to all of you who have come to celebrate with us Jimmy's retirement. Especially pleased that his family could be here, and for an opportunity for me to renew acquaintance with those of you who I've met before and meet those of you who I have not. I'm also extremely pleased to see so many members from the local law enforcement organizations in this area, as well as the private sector. Chief Haynes and earlier David Cummings was here, two individuals who I have met over the years at the IACP Association meetings around the country. ATF takes great pride in our relationship with the other federal agencies, the state and local organizations. And I was extremely appreciative of those remarks that Mr. Donaldson made about Jimmy, because Mr. Donaldson, we also feel like that Jimmy epitomizes those qualities that we're looking for in federal managers and law enforcement. And I know that I certainly feel that way. Like Jim Brightwell, Jimmy and I go back a long ways. And Jim Brightwell and I were talking on the way down today on the plane that in my career, this is the first person who ever retired who actually made me feel old. It causes you to begin to feel your age when you see your own counterparts as they retire. And I came to work about 8 months prior to Jimmy, and I was fortunate enough to be in the region where all the work was going on, and Jimmy was in the Northeast region. And,
and that none of the agents in that region were supposed to know that I was up there, and I was working for an individual by the name of Jack Williams, one-eyed Jack Williams, and Ollie Nooncaster, and two individuals that Jimmy had worked on for years, and was running a 14,500 gallon still for him. And they thought that I was an informer, and I felt sure that if on each occasion as I delivered a truckload of liquor and told them the automobile that it would be transferred to, where the stash houses were, that this young agent who was supposed to be so fleet of foot by the name of Jimmy Bivens, if he knew everything about the transfer, would be able to catch someone. He didn't. And after we got to know each other, and this was about 22 years ago, you should hear the excuses that he had. It was always someone else. In 1972, I was in the regional office in Atlanta, and Jimmy was transferred to Atlanta, and I left. I went to San Francisco in 1973, and in 1975, Jimmy came to San Francisco, and I left. In 1977, I went to Washington, and Jimmy came to Washington, and unfortunately, Jimmy left. And over those years and those opportunities to work together, Jimmy and I had many, many opportunities to discuss ATF, the direction that we thought it should go in, and our respective ideas on management. And I have to say that I don't know anyone who I've ever worked with that I felt had nearer ideas to mine in terms of management and the direction that ATF should go in than Jimmy. And I have valued his counsel over the years and have called on that counsel many, many times, even since he's been in Birmingham. We both agreed when I became the associate director 4.5 years ago that I had one chit coming from Jimmy if I ever needed it. Fortunately, I have not found it necessary to call that one in to bring Jimmy back to Washington. I still feel like that if I ever saw the day that that was necessary or needed his advice or counsel or assistance in any way, even though he will now be retired, I still feel like I have it coming, and I still feel confident that he would give it to me as well. As I mentioned earlier, I think that Jimmy epitomizes those qualities that ATF is searching for in managers and in employees. And I think that those of you who are not in law enforcement, who know Jimmy very well and are in the private sector, would agree that Jimmy also epitomizes those qualities that you would be looking for as a co-worker, as a supervisor, as an employee, and certainly in all of your cases, as a friend. So it's indeed a pleasure to me, on behalf of all of the men and women in ATF, to present Jimmy with what we feel very, very strongly about, and is made available only to those who maintain the highest standards in ATF, and that's the Director's Award. And if you'll bear with me just for a moment, I'd like to read to you. To recognize 24 years of outstanding service to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, Mr. Jimmy Bivens, since 1975, has served as a senior manager for the Bureau. In this position, he has helped shape the Bureau into what it is today, one of the most effective and efficient law enforcement organizations in the country. Mr. Jimmy Bivens has fulfilled his responsibilities and assignments in a high-quality fashion and in a manner indicative of his entire career in the Bureau. His sustained performance and major contributions to the direction of significant ATF program and policies truly merit the Bureau's highest award. So it gives me great pleasure to present to you, Jimmy, the Director's Award, along with your commission
effect, leave the agency, retire. We try to make a point for all of the friends, both within the agency and those within the community and private industry and other agencies that have held everyone in the person in high regard. We try to present them with a gift that they'll remember us by. It was extremely difficult in your particular case because you're a man who has everything, including a wonderful wife and family. But we found out through the grapevine that I really don't know what you're going to do with it or who you're going to have teach you to use it. But we understand that one of the things that you want about as much as anything is a personal computer. But what we've done, Jimmy, we have gone together and your friends both within and without ATF have purchased a gift certificate towards a computer for your retirement. Of course, we can't leave Phyllis. Bless her heart, she's put up with probably more than anybody in this room. Phyllis, we've also got a gift for you. We give it to you in sincere appreciation and friendship. Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, there is no more time that Jimmy can't reflect. Thank you for being here tonight.
I knew this time was going to come, so I made some notes. I'd like to get a couple of rather serious things out of the way, and then I'll do a rebuttal. This is point and counterpoint. I did spend a lot of time, by the way, deciding on making the speech. And I was going to be real profound and talk about the Bureau. This will be philosophical, professional. You know, after I did it and I wrote it about 3 times, I decided I would just be me. I found that served me for a lot of years. It's probably the best way to go. There are some people here that I would like to thank from the bottom of my heart. And that's Phyllis. My oldest daughter, Dee. Donna. Donna got married last year, so I'd like to recognize her. Phyllis reminded me to thank her. Wrong. There's still coming over the house. Down at this end of the table is my son, Doug. Doug's wife, Susan. Those are the most important people in my life. I would also like to recognize my brother, Bill, and his wife, Nancy. Now that's out of the way. I want to tell you what this career's been all about. Some 24 years ago, we were in West Virginia. That's a mountain state over there, you know. Most of us call it West by God, Virginia. And Phyllis and I grew up pretty much together and went to the same high school. You probably noticed when I introduced the kids, all of the names starts with D. We didn't learn the rest of the alphabet. But we did get up to D. But regardless of that, we managed to work together, and I went through service, college, and applied for ATF, by the way, on a lark. It was not a chosen profession. I wanted a job. I had 3 kids, and I was going to college, and they were hungry. And my relatives were coming over, by the way. They were embarrassed because the kids were barefoot. So I went down one day and we took this test. small guy. I've picked that up since then. I used to be a lot smaller. And I interviewed with about 8 guys, and they were big and husky, and all of them were in law enforcement. And when I left, Phil's probably never admit this, you know, I'm a little conceited when I get home and talk how good I am, but I really didn't think I had a chance for the job. And out of the people that were interviewed, I was the one hired. So from that, I went down to Richmond, Virginia. And after you go to work for ATF, at that time we were really called ATTD, Alcohol, Tobacco Tax Division of the Internal Revenue Service. The alcohol tax part didn't scare anybody. Internal Revenue Service scared the hell out of them. But I went down and I spent about a week in training, reading manuals and what have you. And consistent with all the professional training I had received at that time, the equipment issued, they gave me a set of handcuffs. They gave me a firearm, was a Colt 6-shot revolver with the little hook on the bottom, you know, for the lanyard, for your gun people. That's, you know, you run a rope around your shoulder and hang it on there, so you won't lose it. They gave me a cavalry holster that, if you'll watch some night a late show, you'll see General Custer fighting. I had one of those holsters. So that after this week of reading the books, they said, okay, we're going out tonight, we're going to work this case. And there was a guy coming in with a carload of whiskey. And I was working then for a fellow by the name of Clyde Reynolds. Clyde has since retired and played a major role, by the way, in my career. But we were working there, and Clyde had the information they were delivering this carload of whiskey. So I'm sitting in another car with an agent across Route 1 in Richmond, Virginia. And needless to say, I'm hyped up a little bit. You know, I got my gun in the seat. I don't even know I'm supposed to wear it. So they call on the radio and say, we did have radios at work. We got real good equipment now. They called and said, hey, the guy's here with the whiskey. And all of a sudden, we're driving across the road, and we're going to go arrest this guy. And I get over there, and I look, and here's a black guy running away from the car. Clyde Reynolds is chasing him, shining a flashlight on him. I said, good God, I'm supposed to have this gun on. And I got no flashlight. So I take that gun, and I shove it right down my belt, holster and all, just like that. And I caught the guy in about 15 yards, max. As I passed by Clyde, I said to him, hold the light on. That's not a good thing to say to your boss first day on the job. But it started building a reputation that stuck with me, and I was very lucky. I would end up having good luck on catching people quite a bit. And one of the things that Clyde Reynolds taught me, and it's something that every law enforcement officer should be taught. He taught me to talk to people. That man was responsible more than anyone else for me learning to talk to violators, talk and get information. And information is the absolute heart of criminal law enforcement. If you don't get the information, to pardon the expression, you're peeing into the wind. You've got to know what's going on. Clyde Reynolds is a guy who taught me that. You heard a lot about some of the serious things later on with Phil. I want to tell you a couple other things. Tell you some real things. T-men in action things. I got to relate back to what Riggs said. Dave talked about this guy in the woods doing something. That story was only about half correct. I'm going to give you the real scoop. Okay? Write this one down. That incident occurred, I was working out of Richmond, and we had a fellow out of Charlottesville, Virginia, who was doing undercover on the North Carolina-Virginia line. He was buying some moonshine whiskey. And they didn't really trust him. It was Mike Townsend, who probably well knows very well. Matter of fact, we know all these people very well. Mike and I went down there to work this, and we were well-trained, skillful agents. Both of us real young, quite know our butts to first base. But we went down, we did a couple things in the afternoon while we were waiting to meet the violator. Went in the barber shop and got the first barbershop shave I ever had. That was colorful. Then we went out and set up and bought about 2 or 3 6-packs of beer. And we started sipping on the beer. And then we met the violator. And the violator, we met him, we had a pickup truck. And Mac was dressed in a pair of blue jeans and a t-shirt tucked into him. And I had on a pair of like blue jeans with a shirt buttoned up and sort of hung over the pants. And Mac gets me and he says, "God damn, the guy's here. Can't leave our guns in the truck because he's going to take the truck and go get the whiskey." Mac couldn't put him in his belt. So I took 2 guns and I put them in my belt, right here, just like this. And we waited for the whiskey to come, and we were sitting there with the violator. And lo and behold, nature did call. There was number 1, wasn't number 2. Now, most of you people have worked with pants that had zippers, right? You ever try to unzip a zipper? You got to kind of grab it, pull it up with one hand, straighten it out, pull it down. When I pulled it up like that, both those guns went right down my pants. But I was real careful, and I was protecting the government's property, and I did not get 1 drop on it. That's the proof of that. I got to rebut just for a minute a little bit of stuff McGuire said. And McGuire's my boss now for about 20 more days. But he talked about me running and not catching somebody. I'm going to give you the scoop on that, too. Everything he said about One-Eyed Jack and coming up there working undercover was true. The part he left out was One-Eyed Jack took McGuire to Philadelphia. They were going up there and buy some of that big city liquor. So they got on the streets of Philadelphia, and Jack introduced Phil to this guy that had the liquor. And Phil gave him the money to count. $1,200. That's a lot of money in those days. And that guy just boogied, baby. You know, old Slick Phil couldn't catch him either. The talk around the office was that was Jack's buddy, and they split that trouble. And there was another guy up here speaking, and he is one of my dearest friends in ATF, and that's Jim Brightwell. He's one of my dearest friends outside of ATF. But I got to tell you just 1 or 2 things about Jim. When I went up to D.C. on that assignment that Durham alluded to, little short guy was up here early. He doesn't know I'm going to withdraw my retirement pay. He has to go back to D.C. if I do that. At his own expense. We were working up there in Washington, D.C., and I had been working liquor all my career. I was good at chasing bootleggers. Never been around the big city too much. And most of the people I had working for me hadn't been there either. Because we had 3 or 4 young agents who were going to make a gun buy. And some of you don't know what front money means, but if you put money up front, that means when you're dealing with an informer, you give him the money to go do the deal, and you got all this misplaced confidence that he's going to do it and come back. He ain't going to do that. He's going to keep that money. Well, Brightwell was riding around in the car with a fellow whose name is Jerry Saster. Jerry was a detective in Falls Church, which is a little town right outside of Washington, D.C. We had 4 or 5 other guys who were buying guns, and they gave the money to the violator, and he went in the front door of an apartment and out the back. And they were trying to find him. And they got on those high-class radios we got and started calling around, and identified the car. Brightwell and Jerry saw the car, so they called on the radio, through this coded message that I wouldn't understand. I was supposed to be supervising them. They followed this car over into Washington, D.C., And Brightwell and Jerry proceeded to approach the people in the car at a stoplight over there, get them out of the car. Wasn't exactly at gunpoint, they kind of held it down a little bit. And had the guy empty his pockets on the car, counted out the government's money, got back in their car, and started leaving. And Jerry Sasser, the detective, looked over at Brightwell and said, "We better get our ass over in Virginia." What the hell's wrong? He said, "We just pulled an armed robbery." This is honest truth. That was 2 men in action. I can give you 2 or 3 more things with Brightwell. I want to keep that friendship I talked about. Tell you a little bit, just a touch about San Francisco. I'm going to quit before we laugh first. When I went out to San Francisco, Phil was out there and he left. He was kind of a chicken. He didn't hang around too long. We got things going. But one of the things we learned out in San Francisco was really the beginning of ATF working in a lot of significant bombing investigations. And when we were out there, they bombed our office. And again, we were just like to see it on TV. You know, we just jumped out there and did all that good stuff. I was sitting home watching the news, and I saw on TV they had bombed the Tishman building. I said, "Well, damn, that's where our office is." So, you know, it was one of those things. I gave you a little thing that says, you know, pictures at 8, pictures at 11, and I waited for the pictures to come on. And sure in hell it was our office. So I got in the car and I drove into San Francisco, went to the office. We were on the 34th floor, and the elevators weren't working. So I hiked it up there 34 floors and walked into the office, and there must have been no less than 100 people in that office. Now, we were real good then at securing the crime scene and all that. We had news people walking around. We had GSA guards and GSA people fixing the elevator. And everybody's walking around the bomb crater, kicking dirt in a hole. Now, we don't do that anymore. We've gotten a little bit better than that. Matter of fact, Cecil, y'all don't have to excuse me, but I think we're the best. Cecil and I are real good friends, but you know, what the hell, you got to jab him when you can. I went back to D.C. and I did all my good stuff up there I was supposed to do, and I was transferred to Birmingham. Quite frankly, I had been to Birmingham in about 1972 and didn't think a hell of a lot of it. But I was transferred here by a fellow named Bud Keithley, and I thought Bud was punishing me. You know, I thought I had really done something wrong. And then when I got down here, I really and truly discovered probably one of the best kept secrets in the country. This place is absolutely one of the best places I have ever lived, that I have ever worked. I have had the cooperation of every single person I deal with down here. You heard some of them speak tonight, and they jab a little bit, but I'll tell you one thing. They are absolutely the best, the most cooperative, and some of the greatest people I have ever worked with. I'm going to say one more thing, then I'm going to, as soon as I just check, make sure I got rid of all the guys that did. Oh, Palmisano, you talked about writing that report 6 times? That wasn't near enough. And I got gigged a couple of times up here on about somebody who was smarter than me. Well, anybody gets anybody dumber than them to work for them. Who the hell ends up going to work?